Hey people, welcome to the Run Test. It's Kieran here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about this multi-day running pack. It's called the Instinct XX 20 to 24 litres. I tested this over 1,830 miles all the way along the Danube, and in this video I'm going to be telling you how it held up. So Instinct are a French brand. You may not have heard of them before, but they have got one thing on their mind, and that is basically making multi-stage running backpacks that do the very best job when you're looking at doing things maybe like the Marathon des Sables, or you're going to go multi-day running within the Alps. They are laser focused on making these packs work and fit for purpose for that. Now we've started to see these packs pop up on the backs of more and more elites doing multi-stage ultras and doing longer run in the Alps. They do a different kind of range of volumes of packs, but the one that I tested on the River Danube run over 1,830 miles was the Instinct XX 20 to 24 litre. That's a sort of scalable pack that lets you adjust the volume and capacity of what you want to carry. Now I put this to the ultimate test using it for my long run adventure, where I ran to become the first person to run the River Danube from the sea to the source, from Romania to Germany, through 8 countries, roughly a marathon a day for 67 days, and I used that pack for every single one of those days, carrying all my own kit in order to be self-sufficient on my back. It ended up being around about 10 to 12 kilograms. So I have tested this model of backpack more than most. So how did it hold up? Well, in this video I'm going to tell you. But before we get into that, let's have a quick whip round and see what this pack has to offer. So design details first then. Well, this pack comes in one size, it's unisex. It weighs 624 grams on its own, and it comes in at a price from 225 euros up to 250, depending on whether or not you go with the soft flasks. I actually paid 219.95 for mine in the UK without soft flasks. So really quickly, I'm just going to take you through all the storage compartments. So flip it onto the front, you've got 2 bottle holders up the top. You've got another 2 pockets down the bottom that can be bottle holders, or they're stretch mesh pockets. There's a 3rd stretch mesh pocket on the right hand side harness. There's 2 zippered pockets that sit behind those, one on either side. You've got 2 smaller zippered pockets up the top on the harness. Those are relatively big. That's basically that. Flip it over to the back. You've got 1 smaller front compartment here. Then you have your main compartment in the back, which is separated. You've got that roll top kind of pouch, extendable pouch that extends the capacity. At the bottom of the pack you have 1 stretch mesh pouch here. There's a separate one which is compartmentalized, which you can access from the sides, which I use to put my kind of thermarest and my sleeping bag in, and again that is very, very stretchy and extends a long way. So those are basically your storage options on the Instinct XX. So the run test then, well, I've worn this for 67 days, I lived with it, and for me, this backpack was pretty much an instant hit. In the past, I've actually run with the WAA WAR Ultra Bag, which you'll see a lot of people using in the Marathon des Sables. It's what I used when I went and did the Marathon des Sables in 2015, and on subsequent races ever since, I've stuck with this pack. In the build up to this kind of challenge, I actually had to change because I couldn't get hold of one of those. In the last minute, I was looking for something else. I tested bags from OMM, Official Mountain Marathon, I tested bags from Raid Light, all sorts, and actually at the last minute this was recommended to me, and within a week of kind of wearing it, this was the one that I decided I would choose for many reasons. So 2 big things when you're looking for a running backpack for multi-stage is obviously comfort. This has to fit right, it has to feel right, and you'll know pretty quickly once you've got all your gear in it and you're on whether you're going to like the way that it sits in and around your body, if it's at the right height, if the weight spreads correctly. And this is one thing that I think the Instinct does really well. It's got really nice kind of padded, quite wide shoulder harness that sits nice on the shoulders. The back padding is kind of thick enough without being too heavy and too thick, but it evens out all the lumps and bumps of kit that might not, you can't always get your kit to sit perfectly on your back, so there's some bits that might stick out, and that did a nice job of softening and evening those out. But I think for me, one of the really big things was I was going to be carrying between 10 and 12 kilograms of gear at any one time. It's quite a lot actually for running, but oftentimes with this backpack, it kind of made you feel like you were carrying much less. The way that it kind of spreads the weight and it holds the weight on your back and on your shoulders with the sternum straps and the 3 kind of point straps, it does help you to sort of keep the weight in a nice sort of comfortable position without particularly any bounce. So I really rated that. That was something that I think, you know, compared to some of the other packs that I had, it felt really, really strong, as good as the Wah, if not better. So a really, really positive point was comfort. You know, as I said, those shoulder straps, I felt like they were nice and wide, even with the full weight in there, didn't have too much cutting in. Although actually, whilst I was on the run, I discovered that if I put 2 sanitary towels, one on each shoulder, you know, sticky side down, obviously they would stay in place, and that would actually just take a little bit of the edge off carrying the backpack and prevent any chafing. I think that's a tip that I'll carry forward, and I think it works with kind of any running pack. So if you're going to go on a multi-day, try it. It works a treat. Going for the thickest sanitary towels that you can find, and they just add a little bit of extra padding. That's a sort of top tip from me. So the next most important thing for me is storage. It's not just about the capacity and how much gear you can take, it's also about how accessible all of that gear is. So what you want to do when you're doing a multi-stage race like this, you need to know exactly where everything is at any one time. You want to be able to put things back in one particular place. So your head torch, for example, you always know that it's in one pocket. You're not going to be scrabbling around moving things from pocket to pocket. Now, if you think about what I did on the Danube, I essentially had, I don't know, maybe sort of 15 to 20 bits of kit, and I used to have some things that were easily accessible, some things that were stored in the backpack. Now, the different compartments on this bag made that really super simple, and there's plenty of sort of smaller zipped storage pockets up front where they're easy to get to as well, for sort of putting fuel and kind of really kind of necessary accessories that you don't want to have to stop and take your pack off to get out whilst you're running. When you're running a marathon a day for 67 days, the tiniest little, I don't know, interruption or annoyance or stopping to take the pack off, it's frustrating, it breaks your flow, and you don't want that to be happening. This bag made that kind of not really a problem, because I could always have my items where I could find them really easily. It was very easy to create a system for storing all your essentials and always putting them back in the same place. Something that I really loved. I think it's really, really well thought through. The other thing I really did kind of rate was that top roll top compartment that flexes up and down. So it's separated from the main compartment. But what it meant was I was actually picking up packages of food that would last me around a week, and I could extend the capacity into that pack, put the packages of food in there, and as I ate them, you could roll it down, and you know, your capacity was squashing, and the bag didn't feel kind of like it was flapping or baggy or anything. You could just kind of keep it nice and compact and nice and tight, and then as you needed it, you would flex back up again the next time I got a kind of supply of all of that fueling. And it just meant, again, you could keep that fueling sort of stuff separately from all your other gear, your clothes and whatnot. So if any of the gels or whatever I was taking split, there wasn't contamination. It didn't mean that I had kind of sticky stuff in the same places that I had all of my really important gear. So that extra flexible top storage, I think, was an absolute win. You don't get that on something like the Wah, and I haven't seen it on other bags like the Raid Light. It's a really quite a unique feature to this, and I really liked it. I also really liked the fact that on the front, on the harness, you have this option where basically there are 4 points where you can store bottles. You can have them higher up or in 2 that go lower down. That's really good. You know, I think if you're going to run like the NDS, a lot of people like to have the kind of the straws that come out of the hard flask bottles, that you need them to sit at the right kind of level. And actually, I found with this pack, if I had them in the top pockets, for me anyway, those straws were too high and they would be in my face. And when you turn and run over on these multi-days, that can become something that's a bit of a frustration. So it's something to watch out for. Great with this pack, you just drop them down 1 lower and you can still reach them and drink them. The other thing that's really good about that is they sort of double. You can just use them as regular pockets. But if you really need to flex up your hydration at any point, so for example, during this kind of Danube run, sometimes I knew that I'd be doing 40 miles where there wasn't much by way of kind of water supply. So I knew I'd need to carry a little bit more water. You can actually just fit in a regular small bottle or another soft flask if you've carried an extra one in the back, and you can scale up your water. You've got 4 points where you can carry water. So that is a real big benefit, to scale up and down your kind of hydration, as well as having those extra pockets for putting things if you're only just carrying 2 bottles. In terms of lockdown fit, like I said, the harness holds nicely. I think the fact is that you've got those 3 height adjustable chest and sort of sternum straps made it really easy to get a good tight lockdown fit, which can sometimes change even if the weight in the pack changes. So let's say when I had more fuel in, sometimes the pack weighed a little bit heavier, it moved it a little bit, and I needed to sort of be able to adjust that to get a really nice balance or a fit. Or if you're putting on jackets, or you're wearing extra layers underneath, or you're going just down to a t-shirt, all of those things, these height adjustable straps really, really helped make that kind of fit really good. And I was quite impressed with that. I think the only way that I would really improve on that, I think maybe I would have liked one kind of waist strap that was a bit more substantial to lock in that kind of bottom bit, and maybe just take the weight forward a little bit up and over on my shoulder so the bottles came down a little bit lower. But overall, you know, it ran well. That would just be something that maybe I would look to improve on. Another couple of tiny little details here, and this is what I think Instinct have been great at. They've really thought through the details here. You've got a handle on the top of the bag. Makes it really easy. If you go into public toilets, I was in and out of kind of random toilets all over the place, places where I had to sort of campsites where I had to shower. My whole life was in the bag, so I couldn't leave it out and I had to take it with me everywhere. This lets you hook it up and not have to put it down on filthy, dirty floors. It also doubles if you want to carry it rather than by the straps. You can carry it up here, which meant that your bottles didn't fall out or things weren't swinging around and you weren't sort of putting any extra unnecessary sort of weight and struggle through these kind of sternum straps and through the harness and stuff. So that handle, it's also really built, that one actually is one of the sturdiest bits on the bag. I really like that. The other thing, you've got a built-in whistle, obviously that's dead handy for obligatory kit. Also really like that all the zipper pulls have got these nice kind of rubberized textured handles on them, so you could pull them. They're nice and long, and yeah, it made it really easy to zip and unzip pockets as you were going, particularly in places where, you know, maybe sort of down low, where it's a little bit low and you want to be able to easily grab something without things being too fiddly. Also, I think if you're wearing gloves, that texturized kind of feel of these sort of these pulls is a real bonus. You know, you're basically not, there's no fiddly stuff going on here. It's all good. If you want to talk about heat and breathability, I was running mainly in 25 degrees Celsius plus. Often I was running, one run I had to do, I did a 38 miler where I ran at least 20 miles of that in 38 degrees up to 41 degrees. So we are talking big, hot, sweaty conditions here. And that's the other thing. You know, you've got this kind of, this mesh at the back. I found it plenty breathable. I didn't really get off runs where I felt like this was soaked and sodden and heavy and wet with sweat. It was breathable, it was wicking, it moved kind of moisture away. It didn't leak moisture through into the back main compartment either, so it didn't make my gear wet, which is another huge thing. If everything in that bag at the back is what you've got to survive with, you need sort of dry clothes. That's a really important thing. You don't want them to come out all sweaty and manky. So onto some things that I didn't like then. One thing I spotted the moment I got this bag back in London before I went out to run, there were a couple of areas that I figured could be weaknesses, and I deliberately took out solutions to that on this Danube run just in case. The first of them, and one of the biggest problems, are these side elastics here. Now these side elastics, they're designed like this with pulls here, so you can actually cinch that and tighten it and make it kind of sort of micro adjustments to fit everybody and get a comfortable fit no matter what. And that adjustability, I guess, is a good thing, but there's one thing I didn't like. I could tell that these elastics were basically too thin and they were basically at risk of breaking. Lo and behold, I think about 2.5 weeks into using this pack, one side went, a little bit later the other side went. I ended up having to replace both of those with lace locks. So I took out some, which is basically just the same deal, but just a slightly thicker elastic. I don't really know why they didn't just pop on something that was a little bit thicker and a little bit more durable, and I would instantly upgrade the durability of this pack. So the second thing is this extra additional pouch, which is handy. It clips onto the back of the bag. It beefs up your storage. You don't have to take it with you, obviously. It's also got a compartment that can fit a solar panel in there, so it's on your back, attracting the sun, and you don't have to worry about getting cable ties and trying to attach your solar pack, which again, great for if you're going through the sort of do the desert runs or these runs where you kind of need to get power and you want to have your solar sort of charging pack where it can gather sun whilst you're running rather than just in the campsite afterwards. The only problem with this is the way that this attaches. So it essentially attaches to the shoulder harness here via these clips. There's one on either side, and then there's another clip down here, down the bottom, where it attaches to the back of the bag. Now, a couple of things. One, this clip here almost operates like it has the integrity of the way that the shoulder straps sit on the back. So this sort of almost holds the bag up a little bit in place. But these particular kind of straps here that attach to this pouch, they are very flimsy. And I could tell that very early on, there's so much pressure going through these, that these were going to go. And it's another thing that happened. They went a bit further into the run, but they both eventually went, and I had to use cable ties to not only lock this pouch onto the back, but also to ensure then that the shoulder harness sort of stayed in place. So another point of durability there that was a little bit of a weakness. Again, I just think, just for the sake of the same, I think I'd either strap this pouch somewhere differently and change the way the shoulder straps kind of hold in place, or I'd make those straps that attach this pouch thicker, basically. And again, you'd sort of fix that durability. Because of those two faults, I ended up kind of getting a replacement pack sent to me whilst I was out on the Danube. And while those things in the second half of the run didn't break this time around, very quickly the two mesh bottle holder pockets went. So they basically just, the stitching just came away and my bottles fell out. Now, I did have other things in there. So I had a selfie stick pole, which I don't know whether that caused a bit of pressure and maybe sort of removed, but you can see, I mean, it's just the stitching has just sort of come away here. You can see my finger come through there. And yeah, again, it just maybe needs a little bit of an extra stitch. And you're gonna, in these pockets, you're gonna wanna put all kinds of different stuff. You might have trekking poles, you might have all sorts, and it's that flexibility that you're gonna want. You know, you don't wanna be limited to what you can put in there. And actually, they went on both sides. So I had to sort of safety pin those up and fix those. On the bottom of the pack, there's quite a lot of extra. So you get this extra for attaching different bits and pieces, and you've got these loops. One of those sort of fell off on the first pack. It just frayed and came away. And these little extras, I'm just not sure about. You can see here actually, I ended up cutting off a couple of the toggles that were on here. I didn't need them. I didn't need to scale up the kit, and they were just in a place that just rubbed on the underside of my back and got a bit chafy after a while. So I just decided for both these packs that I just snipped them off and I didn't need them. So you might want to customize those a little bit. It's quite hard to get this. I mean, you're supposed to kind of hook it up here on here and you can put stuff in there, but it wasn't always easy to get those two toggles out of the way off your back, whereas this one you can kind of hook up and keep it out of the way. So I just wasn't sure about all that kind of stuff on the lower. I didn't really need it. I found it a little bit unnecessary. And then one other thing on this kind of external pack, I mean, I love that you had the opportunity for this, and again, it meant you could have some things that were just sort of stashed away. You didn't have to go into the main compartments, but this has got a pull so you could get in easily. I just wish it actually had a popper or something, two poppers or something to close that compartment, because actually sometimes I had things in there that they just didn't feel like, I wasn't 100% sure that they weren't going to fall out if they didn't sort of stretch the mesh and actually hold in kind of tight if they weren't big enough. So a couple of poppers I think would just give that a little bit kind of more utility as well. You know, these are small details, but they do make a big difference. And so verdict then, well, when you're looking for a multi-day ultra or multi-stage run or just general kind of running backpack, there's a couple of things, you know, reliability, durability, comfort, and I guess capacity are the key things that you're looking for. Reliability is absolutely up there. It's no good being somewhere in the middle of the Moroccan Sahara and your pack falling apart and all of a sudden you can't run properly with it. You've got to be able to rely on it. So I think this pack, it impressed me in so many different areas. I absolutely loved it, and it's so close to being my favourite all-time running pack ever. I love the comfort, I love the compartmentalisation, the capacity was fantastic. It was a bit like a TARDIS. I fitted everything that I needed to survive for 67 days into this pack, including a sleeping bag, a bivy sack, a small change of clothes, fuel, a tarp to cover, you know, all sorts went in there. And so that was great. I love the, you know, being able to sort of sort out a system of storage and find everything, absolutely super. Comfort, capacity, all good. Durability is where it kind of came up a little bit short, and this is not a cheap investment. You know, that's quite a lot of money to pay for a pack. I feel like Instinct are so close to having made this one of a perfect kind of running pack, and if they can just fix a couple of those durability issues, then they'll have done it. Even despite those durability issues, if I was going to go and run that run again along the Danube, I would pick this pack again, and I think that sort of speaks volumes for how good it is and how well it runs actually on your back. You know, running with 12 kilograms over 45 miles on your back, you know, it's not an easy thing to pull off, and this pack did it really, really well. I think if you're going to go and run something like the MDS, or you're going to go and do a multi-stage, then definitely have a look at this pack. I think you will not be disappointed overall. I think for a 7-day ultra like that, you know, you're going to be in sort of fairly safe hands with it. So I think for me, actually, the Instinct XX 20 to 20 litre is a big thumbs up. If they can improve this by adding some more durability to it, they will have an absolute winner of a pack, and I just hope that they sort of do that and keep improving. I'm really looking forward to testing out some of their sort of smaller volume packs as well. They do have a range, so it might be worth having a look at those if you're not needing to carry quite as much kit as I did. But yeah, if you have any questions about this pack, if you have any questions about sort of tips for multi-stage ultras and what to pack and how to approach it and what you need in a good pack, feel free to hit me up in the comments below. I will endeavour to answer those. Always happy to help people who are going to go out and take on crazy challenges like that. So yeah, hit me up. I hope this has been useful. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about this. I did run that Danube run for charity. The charity link is in the caption below. Donations are still open. We've raised nearly £10,000 for poverty impacted children worldwide, and I'd be really, really happy if people would donate more. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again soon on the Run Testers.